What is healthy eating? Number 1, food cooked at home in your own clean kitchen. Number 2, food prepared fresh daily. Good cuts of meat, fresh fruit and vegetables, whole grains, and dairy. In the Makeovers program, we offer 300 recipes, instructions on how to divide your meat for the freezer, how to organize your fruit and vegetables in the refrigerator, and how to organize your pantry and your kitchen tools for a successful cooking experience. The next step is the freezer. The freezer is also divided into sections: pork, seafood, beef, chicken, ice cream. On the door we have frozen raspberries and frozen vegetables. Meat: salami, ham, bacon, sausage, tenderloin, rotisserie chicken, ground beef, New York strip steak, and beef roast, frozen chicken breasts, shrimp, and salmon. Part of the Makeovers food program is meat. Buy it in bulk and then section it off in 2 types of bags: individual portions with the little sandwich bags, and then freezer bags so you don't get freezer burn. We have a long list of beef, and it's beef short ribs, beef ribeye, beef tenderloin, ground beef, and beef roast. It is important to make sure you get all of the air out of it so that it doesn't get freezer burn. The beef ribeye steak is next. Again, divided into sections, and each steak gets a little sandwich bag. Squeeze it in there. And again, make sure the air bubbles are out. Okay. Ground beef. Open up the top and use your sandwich bags. Grab a little bit at a time. You're sectioning it off in 1 pound increments. 1 pound sections. Again, get it really tight. And zip it up, put it aside, and repeat until the whole thing is gone. All of the bags of ground beef have been packed, individually packed. And now to put them in the big freezer bag. Get the air out of it, slide it across. And this one usually takes 2 bags. But they're very firmly packed so they will not take up too much room in the freezer. Beef roast comes in 2 cuts of meat, and we separate them in 2 freezer bags. The beef tenderloin comes in a big piece, and we have to first strip it of all the fat and then cut it into small fillets. The first thing we do is go to the sink and cut the plastic off. Make sure your sink is empty so that you can bleach it after you're done with the meat. Then we pick up the meat and we bring it over to the cutting board. we have 2 big knives to use. We cut the tenderloin in half. Start in the middle and begin to gently pull apart and also cut the fatty parts off. It's important not to cut into the meat like that. The fat usually pulls away from the meat, so you can tear at it more than cut it as well. It takes expert hands and it takes practice, but once you know how to do it, you will always know how to do it. This, for example, is a big, huge chunk of fat, and it just was right there. So when it's time to cut it in little pieces, we're going to take this part away. And here comes the rest of the fat, and that whole portion is clean. We're going to cut off the fat in small portions. Okay, that's enough. The tenderloin has all been cut up, and what we are left with is 3 big fillets and this pile of scraps, which we will cut into small pieces and turn into beef stew. This over here is mostly fat, and this goes in the trash. To cut the tenderloin, it is not good to zigzag back and forth, but just to have a really sharp knife and to just take it and do one big swoop so you don't tear the meat. And here is our first fillet, about 1 inch thick. Beautiful cuts of meat. After we cut a little portion, put 2 in each bag, take the air out, make sure it's tight, zip it, and repeat. The meat is now finished and portioned off in small baggies, sandwich bags. And the last pieces of meat we have is the end pieces, and we cut these in small chunks to make stew or beef kebabs out of. And these will all go into one baggie. You may have a few leftover pieces of fat to cut off there at the end off the little pieces. Sandwich bag. All right. Now for the freezer. Pack these in portion size, half in one bag and half in another. Again, take the air out and zip it shut. There's one. In between doing different types of meat, it is best to clear the counter and wash it off and disinfect it with bleach. Very good. And to also wash your cutting board. So we spray a little bleach and wash it off really good. And also wash your tools, your knives, and your scissors. And then to go over it with just a little bit of detergent and warm water. For the cleaning job, it is best to use paper towels so that you don't mess up your towels with the germs from the raw meat. Get your last paper towel and dry off your counter and your cutting board, and then proceed to cut up the rest of the meat. Here we have the beef ribs. we get them from Costco, and they come 3 slabs to a package. And the best thing to do is to get your kitchen scissors, walk over to the sink, and cut it horizontally to get them out. There's 1, 2, and 3. The next thing we do is to get your big knife out and to cut each slab in half. Find where there's no bone and just cut them in half. Again. They don't have to be cut exactly in half. It's not rocket science. You can just cut as close to the middle as possible. Now each of these slabs get their own bag to go in the freezer. Bag up the entire slab, slide it to the bottom of the bag, and make sure it's in there real tight. Again, fold it over to get the air out, and slide it shut, and this goes directly in the freezer, ready to thaw out when you are ready. Next thing to portion off is the chicken. It comes frozen in a big 6.5-pound bag. And they are either individually wrapped in plastic or they are just individually frozen. We don't need to bag it ourselves because they're already packed, so we put approximately 5 or 6 in each freezer bag so that they stay fresh. To leave them in this bag, they will get freezer burned very quickly, and you will lose some pieces of chicken. Another drawer in the freezer is the seafood. Salmon, shrimp, scallops, and ahi tuna. The freezer section is the pork. Pork chops, pork roast, and ribs.